Hey y'all, how y'all doing today? This is Maurice.
And this is Kafa.
And you are now listening to
the NoFruitPodcast.
And we thank you for tuning in with us every day of the week. Remember to stay what, Kaf?
Stay fit, everybody.
And what does that mean?
That means check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
And make sure that you like, share, and subscribe on all platforms and share it with everybody. Thank y'all very much. So today we are a little more serious today. Our country is, I guess, technically at war.
It's not just our country. I guess it's the whole world.
I mean, I think, well, yes, you're right about that. I made a little more personal by just saying our country, but you're correct. We are at war. A lot of people are looking at it from a perspective of some people think of it as biological. Some people are looking at it from a physical perspective, emotional perspective, but ultimately I'm looking at it from a spiritual perspective.
And what is that you're speaking of?
So what I'm talking about is what everyone is concerned about, which is the coronavirus that is attacking, as you said, the world right now. And you hear a lot of different things about, hey, this is something that we've never seen before, and things like that. But I don't necessarily feel like this is something we've never seen before, but I do believe that as time moves on, our bodies change a little bit, just through evolution, things like that. Do viruses and bacteria become a little more potent? Yes, I agree with that. But I do believe that there's a larger picture to look at.
Right.
That's just my opinion. What's your thoughts? I know I didn't get too far into it yet, but just what's your thoughts?
It's just something that's hard to put your mind around, to wrap your thoughts around,
right.
Especially when they start spewing out the numbers and how many people have been affected with this coronavirus or the COVID-19, how it's just having an impact on the world.
Right.
When it comes to economics, when it comes to business, when it comes to fellowship in church, when it comes to so many different things. And it's not something, and our country has been through some things recently where you could see it, you felt it because it was a little bit different.
Right.
But this you can't see. You can't see it coming or anything like that. So I think it's a little different in that respect. But I'm like you. I think that this is an attack. And, not to get too deep, it could be, a political attack. It could be, like you said, biological warfare. It could certainly be God himself. It could be so many different things. And it's not for us to know, but it's for us just to, I think, get refocused.
Yes.
I haven't heard so many people praying and so many people saying be safe. Like just
right.
recently, everybody's like, be safe,
right.
Take care of yourself,
right.
where they didn't say that before. So, and I think they genuinely mean it.
Yeah.
So I think that's some of the difference, just with some of the changes in how they say we should fight the condition, coming on with just staying clean and washing your hands and
right.
sanitizing and all that kind of thing. We can put a twist on it and say, hey, that's a booming business now. You can't find hand sanitizer or soap
right.
or paper towels or things like that anywhere.
Right.
So that business is doing a great, thing. If you had stocks in that, you're doing great.
Right.
But everything else is falling apart. I think all of this has kind of made us, as the world, fearful. And I think we have to be cautious as believers of that, because the Bible does tell us not to be fearful. So we have to be very, very cautious on that and know that God's got us.
So I believe that it is hard to keep that faith. Because as you stated a few moments ago, hey, this is something that, it's not tangible. It's not something you can see.
Mm-hmm.
I've had so many conversations over the last couple of days where people are just like, listen, it's sunny outside. I want to go outside and play.
Right.
On a Facebook group for our little borough, they were complaining about the kids, being outside riding their bikes, calling them stupid and disgusting and things like that, But if you don't think that it is some type of, if you're going to look at it from the physical perspective of, hey, is this biological warfare? And this stuff is actually airborne. Should you just stay in the house?
Mm-hmm.
I know for myself, I've been going outside, at least just standing outside on a patio on my steps or walk around my car or something just to kind of get some air,
right.
get a little bit of exercise or whatever else. But it's just, you get a little, a little bit of cabin fever and you don't know what else to do with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
In the spiritual side, well, let me stay with the physical. As I had said a couple of days ago on my Facebook page, how I believe this is a soft reset for humanity. Now, I did not mean by just humans, people dying off and things like that. I wasn't in respects to that. But as you said, just being human, just being I'm sorry, I'm talking about being soft reset in humanity, just being a person overall, like you said, of just being courteous. Good morning. How are you? Hopefully, watch out for yourself. Be safe. Do we still have some of those other persons or situations where people are fighting over soap and toilet paper, which I don't understand why everybody's going crazy over toilet paper. That's kind of baffling to me a little bit, especially if they're saying what kills it is soap. That's the part I'm not getting. Soap, Lysol, Clorox, whatever. I don't understand the toilet paper thing. And I think that once one person kind of went above and beyond on one product, everybody else kind of followed suit to some degree.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes when you think virus, you think things coming out of the other end necessarily. That's just my own opinion.
Right.
But from a spiritual perspective, I think this is where those of us that are believers really need to stay girded up.
Yes.
And stay strong and make sure that we take our time to have our little devotions one way or the other. With the world calling a state of emergency pretty much, where it's telling everyone to stay indoors. Well, let's think about that for a second. When can you think of a time where in the Bible you were told to stay indoors? So the first thing that comes to my mind was when they told you to go indoors and they put the blood over the door of the lamb, that type of thing. Are we kind of in that state again? Because we understand to some degree that some things are cyclical, right?
Right.
So
I guess we had to go indoors with Noah in the ark.
Right.
As well.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, as you think about just some of these spiritual cleansings that the world has had to go through, is this one of those things again?
Right. And, I think, as you said, this is our time for us to draw closer to God. A lot of us are not able to go to work because government has asked everyone to shut down.
Right.
A lot of us, the kids can't go to school because, again, the government has asked everyone to shut down. So when you are home, and home is where the heart is, and home is where you should feel peace and feel comfort, is this again the time when we should be, as you're stating, drawing closer to God and praying more and talking with your family and having that devotional time. And you shouldn't have to make a whole lot of time for it because you have so much time now not to have to run out and do so many other things. So like you're stating, that this could be that kind of reset that we refocus on God, where we refocus on family, where we refocus on ourselves, where we refocus on our goals, when we refocus on what it is that God has us to do.
Right.
I think, that's a key thing. So, but with all that, I know with things closing, one of those things outside of businesses, outside of schools, outside of your recreation centers and gyms and things like that, the government has also asked in some regard that some churches close, because the latest was that, groups of 10 or more in our area should not be together. So we've talked to some pastors, and they're a little bit nervous about having service because they don't want to get fined by the government. They don't want the government to come and throw the shoe at them, throw the book at them, if you will. So they're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place because, as you said, this is a time where people need to have faith. They need God. And a lot of times when you seek him, he's at the church. He's in your heart. But there's just something special about going to God's house to see God and to seek him and to draw closer to him. As you said, there's something powerful about being at the altar. A few times ago. So with the churches being closed and the doors being shut down, it gets a little biblical. It gets a little scary at times because those are some things that you read about when it comes to the last and evil days, when it comes to the rapture, but you didn't think, myself, I didn't think that it would happen prior to. And I know you and I joked a couple of weeks ago, like, dang, did we miss it?
Right.
The fact that some of the churches are closing because, again, you just didn't expect some of that. I also didn't expect that I would have a winter with no snow. But that's also biblical, that you won't be able to tell one season from another as we get too close to these end days. It also says that, there'll be wars and rumors of wars and all of those things. And all of these things that are happening, it just makes me pray more. It makes me fast and
So even with that, and so this is has been one of my concerns through history. If you're reading from just the regular history book, whatever history you're reading from, at what point in time in human history where there was not moments like this? So I was speaking to someone before, what was it, 2 days ago? And, again, as I stated about, hey, people saying we've never seen stuff like this before. Well, when you think about those persons who are part of the denomination, African Methodist Episcopal Church, their founder, one of the things he's known for was combating yellow fever, helping those persons in the city of Philadelphia with yellow fever and everything that kind of goes along with that. So were people dying in droves at that time? What was that? Truth be told, what was that feeling at that time? And with that being in the 1700s, wasn't there wars and everything else going on at the same time too?
Correct.
So
but we didn't have television, we didn't have radio, we didn't have 24-hour news. They're just doing nothing but feeding this to us over and over and over again. The story hasn't changed. We're just continuously listening to it. And it's everywhere. It's, if you go to social media, you see it. If you go to the market, they have signs up. You can only buy 2 of these and this and that. So you're surrounded by this all the time, that it makes it a little bit difficult to kind of see past it. But again, we shouldn't be fearful because you can't have faith and fear in the same place.
And that's, in my opinion, I think that's all this is causing is a lot of fear.
Right.
As you stated a few moments ago about, hey, what happens with the stock market? Is this going up? Are people paying attention to what companies are being blessed by this moment? To be honest,
right.
And there's probably some that we don't even know about.
Right, but they're not even
honest.
talking about that. They're talking about the gas prices are plummeting, and that the Dow Jones is dropping, and this is dropping, and went down 1,000 points this morning, and it went down this much, and they had to stop it early because it's just been the largest drop since years and years ago.
Right.
So it's feeding us fear.
Constantly, yes.
Constantly. I mean, I think you even said you saw something on social media that the guard is going to come and
right.
take over. We saw something that, hey, the police force is going to step back and not be out as much.
And they're not going to make any arrests for petty crimes.
Right.
And, and our president here in the United States talking about he's going to enact the Stanford law.
Yeah.
I mean, the Stanford Act.
Mm-hmm.
Stafford. I get it twisted,
mm-hmm.
but I thought hopefully y'all know what I'm talking about.
If not, look it up.
Right. But if he does things like that, do you understand that we are one step closer to them declaring martial law, where it will be truly a state of emergency, where you truly can't leave, where we will truly be a police state. Then what happens then from a church perspective? What happens to the church? Because if you can't leave out, what happens then? And I hear a lot of people talking about, this is not the time to start your online ministry. This is not the time to really use social media if you wasn't using it before, things like that.
Right.
Well, when is the time? Really, like, let's be honest. When is the time? Because if right now, if those persons who do not have anything else kind of going on in their lives, and then right now they are driven by social media, besides seeing this stuff about the virus, if everything else is about prayer, hopefully you will hope that the prayer piece will take over all the negative talk about the virus.
Right. I think we have to, like you're stating, spread love.
Right.
Spread Jesus, spread the gospel, and not spread all the rumors or the negative news. That we spread love, and love is Jesus. Love is Christ, and we need to spread that more.
And I don't think
like
that people. I don't think people are lacking trying to spread the love overall, or some type of positiveness, because people are really feeling the pressure of this virus. But I think people are getting frustrated overall. Like I never noticed how much people really don't like their own kids. Where people are finally getting a better idea of how their own children act in school, or in church, or in other places where they're too busy, quote unquote, to parent. I think there's a lot of, with the whole world having to take a moment and really analyze. Hopefully they're analyzing what they got going on and how things are and what's up with their children and their own lives. I'm hoping that they're really taking a harder look at themselves. I'm hoping and praying that they are taking a harder look at themselves and say, hey, the way that I've been going within this life that I've been given, some things need to change.
Right.
When, as you're taking a look at people talking about, hey, I can't even pay my bills if it comes up, April 1st, and they're hoping that this stimulus package does come April the 6th or May 18th, these two payments that they're talking about. If it does happen, hey, I need that money. Well, when do you stop living beyond your means? When do we sit down and talk to the whole family about real financial literacy, like real financial literacy? I understand that, a lot of people live paycheck to paycheck. But if you have your life together to a degree, even if they are holding off bills and mortgage and stuff for a month, can you still live? Can you still survive?
And not only that, we focus a lot on church growth. So the same things that you're saying, Maurice, also go to the church. A lot of churches are only able to go Sunday to Sunday. So if there's a snow day and they can't have church, or if there's this shutdown where they can't have church, it really hurts them. They can't function. They can't pay everybody they need to pay.
So even with that, how do you restructure your church structure in a manner where you're no longer in that Sunday to Sunday place?
Mm-hmm.
Are pulpits too crowded? I don't know. Too many people on staff, being in the office, or whatever the situation might be. How do we fix that model of the church and make it so that it is better sustainable for the long run?
I mean,
go ahead.
I think one of the things that I remember as a youngster, that the majority of people who were leaders in the church were volunteers of the church. They weren't from another church where they were just coming in as a job.
Right.
They were volunteers of the church. So the person who played the piano was a member of the church, and that was her way of giving. Just like the usher was a usher. Like, nobody paid the usher. No, didn't necessarily need to pay the church musician. So I think, I don't know if that's an answer. It may be for some.
So what do you say to those that I can't remember the scripture? It popped in my head, just lost it. I'm sorry.
Pay Caesar what's due Caesar.
No, not that one. Where people are going to get paid for their talents. I can't remember the scripture.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people kind of use that scripture for them getting paid, things like that. Oh, I can't remember the scripture. I'm sorry, y'all. But
if you know it, comment, send us.
Right.
Send it to us, and we'll
get it together.
We'll do better, y'all.
Right. But it's just that this conversation, because it's taking us in so many different places, and my mind is in so many different places with this. Because when you look at social media, you look at the news, you talk to people outside as as they're walking down the street, people are yelling, "Hey, be safe," whatever the situations might be. You're just overloaded with information, and for myself, I'm just overloaded with compassion and empathy and sympathy and things like that, because as some people say, I might have the heart of a pastor, but I just want to help people, but at the same time, how do you help without necessarily putting yourself and your family in danger?
Right.
And some people will say, well, you plead the blood, but then you'll have other people, and this is real. Like, people are talking about this on Facebook right now, where, someone says, "Hey, I plead the blood," but then that's not scriptural. So, it's very interesting how on social media, within our community, the Christian community, we are so divided, especially from those who say, hey, they're caught up in dividing the word correctly and things, whatever those key phrases that they talk about or say. It's just interesting how divided we really are with some of this.
Right. But I think overall, with all that's happening worldwide, no matter how divided we are, I think this can do one of a few things. It can make us more divided, because now we're not coming together to fellowship together. We're not coming together in brotherhood, to break bread together, to celebrate life together, all those things. We are, because of this, COVID-19, coronavirus, we are now separated. As you stated, we're in our own homes and not coming together as a unit. So, like you said, hey, this can break us down more, or we can use what we got and be brought closer together. Right. So as you stated, hey, now we have other means. We have social media. We have online churches. We have the telephone, y'all. Whether it's your cell phone or your landline, we used to call one another up and check in on each other. Right. Now we just kind of scroll by and see if they all right. And we might, like or something, comment to what they have on their posts. But back in my day, I remember class leaders. Right. The class leaders would call you once a week and tell you what was going on at church and find out what you were doing. If you were MIA, then they would come by and knock on your door. So we may have to, we can't go knock on doors depending on what's going on and what state you're in. Right. But we can certainly pick up the phone. We can certainly send a text message. We can certainly reach out to people on social media and not just be a social media stalker like myself. You can actually comment on things.
But see, I think when they talk about essential personnel, I'm going to be honest with you. I really do think clergy persons are essential personnel.
Oh, most definitely.
I don't think that we're looking at it from that perspective. Mm-hmm. And in that, should the clergy persons be going door to door? Should they be talking to their, like as you're stating, should they be going to their members' homes? Mm-hmm. Now, here's the other side of that. Then people will say, well, common sense will say no. If they're telling you to stay in the house is contagious, things like that, then no, you shouldn't do that. So once again, you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. What should we be doing? Especially for those persons that says, hey, don't start your ministry on Facebook, on social media. So that's what I mean by right now. I think we're in such a confused state overall.
I think, each church, each minister, each pastor, and even each layperson has to look at this on an individual basis and figure out what's best for your ministry, what's best, pastors, for your flock. How are you leading them? And what do they need? They may not need all of that, or you may need a mix of it. So you have to kind of figure out what is best for you and your family, but as well as for all those who you are responsible for. Because at the end of the day, their blood is on your hands. If you didn't reach out to them and you didn't love on them and encourage them through this, that's up to you. Right. You as a pastor, you have been commissioned to rightly divide the word of truth. Right. You have been given flock and you're supposed to lead them. And if you're not doing that, then that's something you have to answer for, pastors and ministers, all of that. So
deacons, stewards, like you said, lay leaders, class leaders. It's not going to be just a pastor, right, that's going to be held accountable. It's going to be all of those persons that are in a leadership role. And let's even break it down to the next, a little further, where you're going to be responsible for your brother and sister, which that means we're responsible for each one of us. Yeah. We're responsible for all together. So, yes, you might be looking for guidance and leadership from your pastor, your bishop, your apostles, things like your teachers, things like that. But also, you do have the ability to have, to make that decision. Let me at least just call and make sure this person is okay. Mm-hmm. All right, do they need something? Maybe you do need to run to the market for them. You might have to spray your whole body down, Lysol and everything else.
I'm telling you, that's the new perfume.
Right. It will be. But that's the thing. Take your precautions. Do what you need to do. They talk about social distancing. As long as you're 6 feet away from that person or one person said 6 feet, one person said arm's length. Well, however you interpret it, whatever's what they're saying in your particular area, some things probably just needs to be done. Mm-hmm. And for all these persons that say, hey, I'm prayed up, it's funny to see people say, oh, I'm prayed up, but they coming off sometimes what I've been seeing has been the most fearful. Mm-hmm. And you're talking about, God didn't give us a spirit of fear.
No, he hasn't.
So how do we work this through?
Right.
As a community, how do we work this through as you're saying, you mentioned a few moments ago about church growth and development. Mm-hmm. From this point forward, do you think that the churches should be back like they were in the 60s and 70s where they were jam-packed? Or are we at a point where it's way too many churches and you're still only going to have 5 here, 30 there, 10 here, 15 there, and then you'll have some of the bigger churches still, maybe with their, anywhere between 200, 500, for those that have 5,000 seat auditoriums.
Or are we going to go even further back? And not to say we're going to go all this way back, but back to slave days.
Right.
Where, it was just you and your people from your plantation.
Right.
There might be 10 of y'all getting together to have a word, to have devotion, to uplift one another.
Right.
Or even, like you said, even beyond slavery, where we were so spread out, we might only got together for church once a month.
Right.
So because we didn't have transportation and you had to walk all that way. So there's a lot to think about and a lot that church leaders need to begin to look at and analyze and see where God is taking the church in 2020 and beyond.
Right. You're right about that. Because I think this is going to be it's going to be a change one way or the other.
Well, we can't even give a church hug no more. So that's the big change.
Right.
You know what I mean? I saw on the news, you had communion was totally different. You couldn't have this and you couldn't have that. So it can change because I don't know. Again, the fear is going to go away totally if people are fearful. No,
and I think that's why they're saying, at least for the United States, our numbers will probably go up for those that will get a little more sick. Possibly those who do cross over, the River Jordan, for those type of things. But how is this going to change our worship? How is this going to change our discipleship? How is this going to change? Because I even thought about this earlier too. Because I noticed that people feel like they're being censored on social media. Well, just so happened, we just finally saw the movie Harriet. And you know what's funny about that movie? How they show Harriet. How did she communicate? Through song. And again, does that take us back to our original days? For those of us who might
here
have been
in the United States,
those that but they even did song in from tribes and things like that too. So are we, in a sense, do we need to go back?
Right.
To move forward, or back to the future, however you want to word it, to that point where, hey, we are communicating in a way that, not just to ourselves, but even to our gods.
Right.
And I said gods, plural, because I don't think that it's just those that are Christians listen to this either. So whatever faith you are practicing, I encourage all of you, same thing. Whatever you got to do, pray, bringing the community together, even tighter, because I think we're coming together slowly but surely, but we're still kind of divided. We still have a lot of work to go, y'all. We really do. We really do. So other than that, I just want y'all to be safe.
Be safe, everybody.
Stay prayed up. Continue to support each other.
Continue to support us.
Right. Again, share this. Give us, your feedback. I mean, whether you agree, you disagree, that's fine with us.
Let us know if your church is open or closed because of
right.
this, virus and pandemic. Let us know. Hit us up. Let us know if you're open or closed. I know some churches are not having Sunday service, but they're still feeding people midweek. So let us know what you're doing out there. Especially
for those kids who don't have meals or families who don't have meals and clothes. And, people are still having fires. And, continue to pray for your brothers and sisters out there, period. All right, y'all. So we thank y'all.
And we love you.
We love you. We thank you for your support. Like I said, share this episode. Tell us what you think. Again, it's only our opinions. We're not saying that we are the law, and each and every one of us do not have all the information. We just don't. We just get, bits and pieces here and there, especially in your particular region, is being handled differently per region, per state.
Again, we love you.
And make sure you just share it, y'all. All right, y'all.
Pray for us and we'll continue to pray for you. God bless you all.
Talk to y'all later.